By the 1850s, slavery had become one of the darkest chapters in American history. Across the southern states, slave auctions were held where men, women, and children were treated as property instead of human beings. Families stood together in fear, never knowing if they would be separated forever. Parents watched helplessly as their children were taken away, while husbands and wives were sold to different owners. These heartbreaking scenes shocked many Americans and made the debate over slavery stronger than ever before. The nation was becoming more divided with each passing year. While millions remained trapped in slavery, some risked everything to escape. Under the cover of darkness, they traveled through forests, rivers, and hidden trails, always fearing capture. They were guided by the Underground Railroad, a secret network that helped enslaved people reach freedom. One of its bravest leaders was Harriet Tubman. She returned to the South again and again, risking her own life to guide families to safety. Her courage inspired thousands and made her one of America's greatest heroes. After escaping slavery, Frederick Douglass became one of America's most powerful voices for freedom. Standing before large crowds, he described the cruelty of slavery and demanded equal rights for all people. His speeches and writings inspired thousands to join the growing abolitionist movement. Across the North, more Americans began to believe that slavery was not only unfair but completely against the nation's ideals of liberty and equality. Across the northern states, printing presses worked day and night, producing newspapers and pamphlets that revealed the harsh reality of slavery. These powerful stories spread quickly from city to city, encouraging more Americans to support abolition. At the same time, many people in the South viewed these publications as an attack on their way of life. With every new headline, the divide between the North and the South became even deeper. In 1854, the Kansas-Nebraska Act allowed settlers to decide whether slavery would be legal in their territory. Instead of bringing peace, it led to violence. Supporters and opponents of slavery rushed into Kansas, and armed clashes soon broke out. Homes were burned, innocent people were killed, and entire communities lived in fear. Newspapers across America called the conflict "Bleeding Kansas." It became clear that the debate over slavery was turning into open bloodshed. In 1857, the Supreme Court announced one of the most controversial decisions in American history. Dred Scott, an enslaved man, had hoped the courts would grant him freedom. Instead, the court ruled that African Americans could not be U.S. citizens and that Congress had no authority to ban slavery in the territories. The decision shocked many people in the North, while many in the South welcomed it. Rather than ending the debate, it pushed the nation even closer to conflict. In 1858, Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas met in a series of famous public debates. Thousands of people gathered to hear them discuss slavery and the future of the United States. Lincoln argued that slavery should not expand into new territories, while Douglas believed each territory should decide for itself. Their debates were reported across the country, making slavery the most important political issue in America. In 1859, abolitionist John Brown led a raid on the Federal Armory at Harper's Ferry. He hoped to capture weapons and begin a large slave uprising across the South. The plan failed, and Brown was captured after a fierce fight. He was later executed, but his actions deeply frightened Southern leaders. Many Americans now believed that peaceful compromise was becoming impossible. As tensions continued to rise, Southern political leaders gathered to discuss the future of their states. They believed the growing anti-slavery movement threatened their economy and way of life. During long meetings, many argued that leaving the Union might be the only way to protect their interests. Support for secession continued to grow, bringing the nation closer to a historic crisis. Across the nation, people gathered in homes, shops, and busy streets to read newspaper headlines about violence, political debates, and growing division. Every new report increased fear and uncertainty. Families, friends, and neighbors often found themselves on opposite sides of the same issue. Americans could all feel that their country was moving toward a dangerous turning point. By the end of the 1850s, dark clouds seemed to gather over the nation's capital. Political leaders searched for peaceful solutions, but trust between the North and the South had nearly disappeared. Across America, millions feared that the Union itself might not survive. The country now stood on the edge of the bloodiest conflict in its history. Years of conflict over slavery had divided the United States more deeply than ever before. The nation stood at the edge of civil war, with both sides preparing for an uncertain future. In the next episode, we'll explore how Abraham Lincoln's election changed everything and led Southern states to leave the Union. Subscribe American Timeline to continue the journey through American history.